Today's game, Would You Rather? And we're talking about some of the hottest topics trending right now. Free speech and indoctrination. Let's play. As a child, would you rather play outdoors or stay inside watching TV and playing video games?
Oh no, as a child, I would go outside. I would riding bikes, playing basketball, having fun.
Okay, what about now? Would you rather go outside or stay indoors and watch TV?
Now, I say since I got older, I'm probably gonna stay inside.
Oh, play outside. Like all my best memories, like when I think back on childhood, have been like outside in the neighborhood.
Well, times have changed because I see a lot of kids, they're not outside anymore, they're inside. What about as an adult? Would you still rather be outside and do something out there, or would you rather be inside?
I'd still rather be outside, like right now. The weather's nice. I'd rather be out here.
As a kid, personally, I would have rather gone outside and played, but because of where I was living at the time, my mom would have rather me stay inside. And so naturally, I just grew more prone to just staying inside and playing video games.
So now, do you still do the same thing? Are you more outside or more outdoors, or are you more inside?
I would say I'm more indoors for schoolwork, but whenever I'm hanging out with my friends, I'd say I'm outside. So it's a mix of both.
Would you rather be free to say whatever you want, but risk being canceled or banned from platforms? Or would you rather have guaranteed protection from cancellation, but only if you limit your speech to what's approved?
I think I'd rather say what I want and be banned. Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because I know I can control myself anyway. I'm pretty blunt. So I just kind of, sometimes it just comes out before I can think about it. And I'd rather be like, deal with the consequences later and say what I want on my mind right then. Yeah.
Okay.
The first one. The first one.
All right, so that's free to say whatever you want, but risk being canceled or banned.
Yeah.
Why would you go with that? Why would you say that?
I think it's very important to be able to say what you want, especially in this country. That's one of the reasons why we founded this country, and I think it should be okay for everyone to speak their mind. That's why individualism is such a good thing in our, country, because people are able to do and speak and be who they are. Censoring that would just ruin that fundamental. And I think also we get free will from God to do what we please. So I don't think taking that away is just wrong, in my opinion.
Okay, I definitely can respect that. How about you, Violet?
She has such a better answer than me, but I was just gonna say the first one because is it like based off personal, like I would want this? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, because I don't know, I feel like I'm not a very controversial person. I don't like put my opinion out onto the internet or anything, so but I do think it is good to speak your mind and but still be careful about what you say because other people have opinions and you should respect that also.
If you were a parent, would you rather restrict your child's exposure to certain TV shows and entertainment, or would you let them watch and play anything they wanted with the risk of them becoming undisciplined and immoral?
I'd probably let I wouldn't restrict anything, cause I would teach them. They looking at something that not for them. I teach them, be like, you can't look at this type of stuff, but tell them what it's about. So yeah, I would teach them. I wouldn't restrict anything.
Okay, so you wouldn't have any limits, like, hey, don't watch this, don't do this?
No limits.
Okay, cool.
I definitely restrict it to a certain extent. I wouldn't restrict everything, but there's definitely some shows that I would definitely be like, nah, you can't watch that. Okay. Especially at a young age.
I would definitely restrict them from certain channels because not everything out there that you watch as a kid is good for your child. So I would definitely restrict them.
Would you rather live in a society where people are free to criticize leaders, even if it offends them? Okay, that's one. Or would you rather live in a society where you're never allowed to criticize authority, but everyone seems united?
I think I'd rather live in a society where I can criticize. Yeah, the first option. Yeah.
Okay, why do you say that?
Again, because I think people are going to say things and they're going to have opinions anyway, and if they're not telling you to your face, then they're going to say it somewhere else where it could potentially harm you after. Because I know in elections and stuff, they go digging into people's pasts for harmful information, and I'd rather have it being told to me than aired on national TV when it actually matters.
So is it talking about would you rather be united in fear or divided?
Right. So it's a sense of uniting, right? So everyone is pretending that we're united, but no one is allowed to criticize the government, criticize the leadership, but we're all pretending that we're united. Like, hey, we're all good and kumbaya, but no one, yeah.
Okay, I would want the first one. I know it's like, why would you want the first one? Because everyone's united. But like, I think the second option just reminds me a little bit of too much of certain countries that like have authoritarian regimes, and like not being able to speak about your leaders like that and criticizing when they're wrong. Like that could also lead to other issues in place. That's why I think so.
Thanks for that, Jazz. How about you, Violet? What are your thoughts?
I feel like you should be able to criticize because you're the ones, I don't know how to put it, but like, I feel like you should be able to criticize, and yeah. I don't have much to say about it. I don't know what else.
Maybe you were leading to the tail end of saying, we're allowed to criticize because who's going to be held accountable for the decisions that are made in society? I mean, right? So, yeah.
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 That's
okay.
pretty much
Okay. All right. Okay. Awesome.
Next question. Would you rather publicly take a stand for what is right, even at the risk of being hated and canceled, or would you rather stay quiet and just go with the flow, not to ruffle any feathers?
Ooh, I ain't gonna lie. It depends situation, but most times I think I just keep quiet. I just go with the flow. Just keep quiet, go with the flow. I don't really want to get into too much of it. Just let it go. Somebody else probably had to come up with it. Yeah.
I would definitely say my opinion. I feel like I'm not afraid of confrontation. I'm willing to have that debate, especially if it's something I know a lot about. Then yeah. But if it's not in my area of expertise, then I'm not gonna say anything about it.
Got it.
I would definitely take a stand and get canceled. I'd rather stand for something that I know is right in my head.
Would you rather hear people openly share opinions you strongly disagree with, or would you rather ban those opinions completely, knowing one day your own views could also be silenced?
I would rather, I think, have them share them even if I don't agree, because if I don't agree, that's okay. Like, I can just ignore those people, and as long as the opinions they're just opinions. They're not like laws being made into or opinions being made into laws. They're just opinions. So at that point, I can just be like, okay, all of you can go kick rocks and have it not be a problem, versus it's different when it's personal to me and it actually will affect me, or people are making fun of me. Yeah, it's different.
Okay, awesome.
The first one.
The first one.
Okay, because I think, people can say whatever they want. I was raised with the idea that people were raised differently, so not everyone's going to believe the same thing that I believe. So sometimes I'll hear stuff, even walking on campus, I'll hear stuff I don't like. But it's like how I react to it, that's what I control, not those other people. So.
Okay, awesome. How about you, Violet?
I agree with everything she just said. I feel like we should all be able to put out our opinion, but I think it comes down to the respect you give somebody, even if they don't have the same opinion as you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to show you a current event, an article that's taking place right now. This is Elon Musk, and he basically canceled his Netflix subscription because there was a show that shows a transgender person, and the show is catered towards 7-year-olds, so it's catered towards children. So he canceled it because he didn't want his children to be influenced by this agenda. What are your thoughts on that?
I think everybody's entitled to their own opinions. He can do what he wants, his money, not mine. And that's really, if they want to follow him, they can follow him. If they don't, they don't. I don't pay for my Netflix subscription, so I don't care personally.
I feel like kids, they don't even really know that deep into what they're watching. So I feel like, I don't know. I don't think it's that, or I don't think he needed to do all that, because I feel like this show is fine.
Okay, so just going back to your earlier statement, you said that you would restrict your child from watching and doing certain things. Would this fall under that category? In other words, would you allow your child to watch a show like this where you knew they were pushing LGBT agendas?
I would probably still let them watch. I mean, I'd have to see for myself and decide if I were to restrict anything in particular.
I see what he's saying. But that's how he want to raise his children. So that's how he gonna do things. And I ain't gonna say it bad. But I see why he did it. I ain't really tripping up.
So again, going back to what I asked you before, I asked if you would restrict your children from anything. You said no.
I still wouldn't restrict. I just tell them wrong for right. You know what I'm saying? Tell them wrong for right. Be like, you know what I mean? Yeah, just tell them wrong for right. Like, this is you. This is not you. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. But yeah, I wouldn't restrict them.
So I want to share with you guys an article. This is from NPR News, basically talking about, we spoke about this a little bit off air, right? You want to read the headline for me?
Kimmel's suspension for Kirk comments sparks fear over free speech and censorship.
Right. So as I was making a comparison earlier on, we saw that on the right, we saw Charlie Kirk, his unfortunate death. He was silenced literally for his opinions, right? His beliefs, his stance, his values, etc. And people were in uproar for that. Fairly, makes sense why, of course, a man's life was taken. But, and not to diminish his death, but we see on the other side, the left side, we see Jimmy Kimmel. His show was actually pulled from radio, from the TV stations as well. So we kind of see both sides, as it were, censoring each other. So based off of that, what thoughts come to your mind when you guys see both? It's as if there's no, whichever side you choose, is as if you're going to be censored in a sense, right?
That situation, that whole situation, is very dangerous for our country right now because there's a big political divide between everybody, no matter what you believe in, and situations like that just fuel the flame more. And I think that's very dangerous because we can't become united to fix basic problems like climate change because we're too busy arguing over what each other believes and literally killing each other for what we believe. So situations like that, I feel like people need to really reevaluate their morals and their beliefs and not go after people just because they think of something slightly different than them.
Okay, all right. Violet, how about you?
Everything she just said. Yeah, I hate going after her because I have nothing left to say. But yeah, everything she said, I agree, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so do you think that society in a whole is heading in that direction of just simply censorship based on what you say you're going to be censored for it? Do you think that our society is actually headed in that direction? We're seeing, evidences of it right now, which is not really, it's polarizing our country, of course, but do you think it's going to be much more enforced as time progresses? What are your thoughts?
I 100% think it's going to be more enforced. Especially, I work in science, so a lot of our studies and a lot of our projects are getting pulled because we don't align with certain political views, certain stuff like that. So our funding, we're getting defunded for that. And other problems I know, like DEI, have been defunded for that. And then I also know that, there's just been so much. There's also censorship. I know there was another talk host that also got pulled. It was Stephen Colbert? Yeah, him. He also got pulled. So our country's definitely heading into that state of censorship.
Yeah. How about you? Think about it?
I feel like our country has always had it for a while. I think it's just starting to really, with the media, as it continues to grow, I feel like it's getting worse. But it's becoming, people are noticing it more now that the social medias, I don't know, they kind of push you towards what they want you to see and stuff. So yeah.
I mean, overall, the situation in general kind of, I think people were really taking advantage of, you can say what you want because they were saying things that, regardless of what Charlie Kirk stood for and whatever, I think that was still a person. And that's coming from someone who really doesn't know. When I heard about it, I was like, oh, that's really sad. But, I don't know what he stood for. I know it was controversial. But I think it's just as big of a thing as it is because he was a public figure. We all have controversial opinions. I think we could get shot over. The thing is, the difference is that we're not openly saying them for people to hear. And regardless, I think it's just really sad that some people are celebrating a person being shot, a person dying. In such a public way, and that's where I draw the line of that's my opinion. I don't extend it to his political beliefs, and I think going on air and talking about it in a way that is offensive, I think there's free speech, but then there's also just you're taking advantage and you're being mean, and that was a person, regardless of he had a family that he's left behind, and that's really sad for you now to take your position of I'm on TV and make fun of that. It's just really demonic. I don't know. Yeah.
Right, well, last thing for you, I'm going to leave you with a scripture from Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7. And it says that God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. And what it means, it's an analogy of farming. If a farmer sows seed of corn, what do you think he's going to reap in the harvest?
More corn?
More corn, right? Simple. So that's what God is telling us, is like what we put in the ground, what we put even in our mind, in our body, that's what fruit is going to spring up. So the more of, immorality that I put in my body, in my mind, through what I see, what I watch, what I do, I'll begin to act it out. I'll begin to do those things. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that principle is not just for children, but it's for all of us, even as adults. And so that's what we're sharing with people today is, that you choose to guard what you do, what you see, where you go, so that at the end of it all, you can reap a good harvest and God can say, Jalen, you're my child. I'm going to take you home. Does that sound good?
Yes.
See what you're saying? Yeah, I do see what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's a lesson not only for children, but for us as well as adults. The biblical principle stands for all. So let's be more mindful of what we do and how we do. Make sure it all glorifies God. Is that your choice?
Yeah, for sure. Yes, sir.
I usually look at these things from a biblical lens. I'm not too sure if you're Christian, Tamara, but I look at it from the lens of the Bible, and in the Bible it warns that the world as we see it right now is actually moving in the direction of restricting freedom and freedom of speech. I mean, you consider Charlie Kirk, who was speaking his opinions, and he actually was killed for it. Look at Jimmy Kimmel. I don't ascribe to what he actually promotes, for the most part, but he was pulled off the air. I don't agree with the actual censorship of speech in and of itself, right? But we're seeing where this nation is actually going. And in the book of Revelation, I'm not too sure if you're too familiar with that, it speaks of a time where the government is going to have total control over society. Revelation chapter 13, if you read the chapter there, it talks about how God's people, when they're faithful to God's laws and God's laws only, when they don't bow down to the government and what the government is mandating, what the government is actually promoting, which is again restriction of your liberties and your freedoms, they will be persecuted, God's people, and they will be even killed, right? And so, as you mentioned before, we at some point have to make a stand for what is right. I have some gifts and I'll leave with you guys. Right here that we leave. This is for you, Jazz, and this is for you. Oh, okay, yeah, both right there. Yeah, so I just want to thank you guys just for taking the time out to share your opinions. Any last comments for our viewers here? Any encouragement?
Be educated, kids. Be very educated.
Free speech only matters if you use it. So friends, drop your answers below, and we thank you for playing Would You Rather with us today. We'll see you next time.